Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. Live, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Susanna Alter.
And today we're talking about invisible toxins of the inner world. Dun, 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 dun. As we were coming up with this topic just moments ago, it is one that we're going to be winging, by the way. We realized that this is kind of like a sci-fi movie title or something.
Yes.
But we are going to be winging it a little bit today. We've got some things we'd love to share, but if it's your first time tuning in, if it's your first time listening, enjoy, and also be sure to subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, wave, say hi on whether you're live on Facebook or Instagram. We'd love to hear you and see you, or at least see your comments. I guess we won't be hearing and seeing your face or anything like that. But anyways, let's get into the invisible toxins of the inner world.
Yes, and so this is going to be another wonderful episode focused on mind and mindset and how the mental world has an impact on our human experience and also our physical health. And honestly, the reason why we're talking about this today is because Ben and I feel like speaking for myself.
Speak for yourself.
Kind of woke up in a weird funk today.
Well, I want to point out that toxins, we are talking about invisible toxins.
We are.
And I think that most toxins are invisible, whether they are physical in the body or metaphysical in the mind. I think that they are largely invisible.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to, so toxins inherently are going to be invisible and really hard to find, and they're really pesky and they hide. But we're talking about not the physical toxins that accumulate in the liver per se and stress our immune system in that sort of physiological way. But we are just going to bridge the gap, as we usually do on this podcast, between the mind and the body, and talk about how toxicities that are invisible in the context of the mind can influence the body and how the body functions and your experience of health.
Yes, and thank you for that introduction. And so these invisible toxins that we're talking about are really thoughts. They're negative thoughts. They are self-limiting thoughts of fear, thoughts of anger, thoughts of anxiety. Hey there, thanks for joining. And they are what we call personal thinking. So it may sound weird to think that your thoughts are toxic. How can thoughts be toxic? I mean, it's just a part of the human being. And yes, I think, one point that I want to make is that thoughts are inevitable. It's not like we're trying to say you need to avoid all thoughts. And same in the physical world. It's encountering toxins in the physical world is also inevitable.
It's part of the human experience.
It's all part of the human experience.
And in the mind, it's part of the human experience.
And the beauty of our human bodies and our resilience is that we are designed to bounce back after being exposed to toxins. So it's not really anything to fear or avoid, but in this episode, we just want to talk about basically where this stuff comes from, how the psychological immune system helps us to navigate through life so that we can basically set ourselves up for a happier and healthier life.
And I want to use the metaphor a little bit more about the physical body and the physical world to bring us into the mind. Because I think it's really interesting how we have this self-cleaning, self-detoxing system, built into our body. It's not anything that we have to turn on or engage. We just have to allow what happens to naturally happen. And we're self-cleaning, self-regulating organisms physically. That being said, our metabolism and just being on this planet, even if we were in a bubble, like literally, even if we existed in this bubble where we breathed fresh air and consumed, perfectly optimal food and all of those sort of things, we would still be creating toxins in our body physically. Our metabolism, creates a lot of waste, a lot of oxidative stress, a lot of different compounds that are toxic, and it's our body's built-in responsibility to clean that out. So I think it's so interesting that we are toxin creating machines and also self-cleaning machines. And bridging that metaphor back into the mind, I think the same is true. Existing in the human experience is going to involve some amount of toxic thinking. But that being said, we are self-cleaning, self-regulating, self-balancing organisms that are able to deal with that as long as we know how it works. And the human body and the human mind do not come with a user's manual. We are in the process of figuring this out, learning it, exploring with it, experimenting with it, and we love sharing what we know and what we have known and discovered to be true for ourselves. And hopefully this can point you in a direction that's also, feels true to you and feels inspiring and empowers you to really take dominion, take control of your mind and your thoughts in a way that improves your health in your mind and also your body, because we know that we can't separate those two.
So where do these toxic thoughts come from? Ooh, what a good question. Actually, we don't really know. I mean, yes, we can look at the actual psychology, the neuroscience of what's going on in the brain and the impulses and what generates a thought. But, in practical terms, we don't know where these negative thoughts come from. And it actually really doesn't do much service for us to go try to figure out and trace back all the trails to why am I thinking this way? Why do I always get anxious thoughts? Why do I always get angry thoughts?
Those are just more thoughts that pile, and usually in a way that's limiting, constricting, tense, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so one thing we really like to put forward and talk about is that we just don't have control over the thoughts that come into our head. Even though we want to, we don't. But what we do have control over is how we choose to respond to those thoughts that come into our mind. So another metaphor that we like to use is weather. We don't have control over whether it's going to be a cloudy day or a sunny day or if it's going to be a tornado, but we do have the ability to respond. And so, we could just throw a hissy fit every time it rained, or we could just acknowledge that, hey, that's what's happening today. And like all weather, it does pass. So this is the way we like to think about thoughts. And when we consider, when we're using them as the word, as being a toxin, when thoughts really create a problem is when we latch onto them.
Yeah. Well, I want to step back a little bit.
Okay.
And I just want to point out that thoughts are not good or bad, right or wrong, toxic or clean. I think that, we created this title, let's face it, we created it to be a little catchy and,
yeah, it's true.
And there's
clickbait,
a little clickbait. We want to engage you. We want to talk with you about this. And I think that a lot of us can relate to thoughts in a toxic way, but thoughts in and of themselves are just energy. They're formless.
Yeah.
They're formless. They have no substance. They have no matter. They're invisible, and that's why they are invisible. But they aren't toxic.
Yeah.
They're nothing. But the way that we think about them is what makes them healthy or toxic or healing or whatever
stress
it is.
Promoting. Yes. Exactly.
Thoughts are just thoughts. And we give so much damn weight and we like blow up these thoughts and create them into these monumental structures of, you know, mass proportions. But when it comes down to it, we can poke that and it can like all dissolve in an instant.
Yeah.
Because right behind one thought is a totally different, fresh thought. And back to the, you know, the metaphor of weather, which I think is just an easy one to grasp. You know, we can be looking in the sky and be just hyper focused on this cloud and just follow it through the horizon. But we have to be reminded that there are tons of clouds in the sky, and there's also sunshine, and there's also, you know, butterflies flying, and there's also, you know, wind, a breeze blowing.
Mm-hmm.
So we can focus on one cloud and we can call it a toxic cloud or a storm cloud, or we can call it, you know, negative or bad or wrong, but it's just ever changing, shifting cloud. And if you look at the cloud for long enough, it's going to dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if we do focus on it for long enough, we'll notice that, wow, that was just that, where'd it go?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd it go?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to focus on it in order to make it dissolve. We can just focus on something else and then turn back and say, oh, that cloud was that cloud that I noticed, it was in the sky. Where'd it go? It looks different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Yes. So really, when thoughts have a toxic effect on our body is when we hyper focus on the thought, when we make it mean something, basically when we obsess about it. Mm. And what this kind of obsessive behavior does is it has all of these physiological effects, responses in the body. And some of them, we like to talk about these a lot, but really briefly, some of them are that it increases blood pressure, increases your heart rate, increases the amount of adrenaline, cortisol flowing in your blood.
And also your blood sugar.
Increases your blood sugar. And long-term effects of being in this state, this kind of fight or flight state, is that it can be really hard on your adrenals. It can actually change your body composition. It can move around fat to be stored in your central midriff area. It can create chronic fatigue. The list goes on.
One interesting thing that I just spoke with one of a new podcast guest that's going to be released in a couple weeks, but this is just a snippet. He reminded me that when we're stressed, not all the time, but when we, you know, and what I mean by stress is obviously we're taking our thoughts seriously. Our breathing can change, you know, and sometimes our breathing can change all the time, but usually when people are in a stressful state of mind, their breathing is much more shallow and they're actually slightly hyperventilating, and they're creating this alkalosis or a basic environment in the lungs, and the body compensates by creating acidity in the body. So we create this metabolic acidosis, to be technologically termed. But essentially what that does is set up the immune system to go down. It sets up an environment where cancer can grow. And so breathing is another way that our thoughts can manifest in our body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the stressful state also dampens the immune system. So if you're in a place in your life where you're really wanting to heal and move towards optimal health, this stress is very much going to put your body in the opposite state.
Right. Like I just said that because of the acid thing and also because of the hormonal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's briefly kind of the mind-body connection. And now that
in a nutshell.
And now that we've gone over that, I want to talk about basically how we can relate to thoughts so that it doesn't create such a stressful response in the body.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important because we talk about living a detoxifying lifestyle and doing so on the physical plane with our food, with the chemicals we're exposed to, this and that, and all these other sort of invisible toxins. But once again, we're talking about the invisible toxins that live with us all the time. And that is the relationship, once again, not the thoughts themselves, but our relationship with the thoughts. Mm-hmm. So how do we detoxify those thoughts? Or maybe, you know, maybe it's really just cleaning up the relationship between oneself and the thinking mind. Because I think that's the answer, right? Because we can't clean up the thoughts. Thoughts are, they're nothing to be cleaned. Right?
Exactly.
So what's your kind of strategy of detoxifying in the realm of thoughts and mind?
Well, I think the biggest thing to support detox of our mental world is awareness and understanding and knowledge. And what I mean by that is understanding simply how our psychology works, not down to like, neurons and brains, things like that.
That a lot of people get excited about that kind of stuff, but it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, how thoughts work, how our minds work in a simple way. And it comes back to that metaphor of the weather, because we talked about the clouds, we talked about weather being thoughts, but what's the sky? There's this big sky up there. What's the sun? What's a clear day? And we like to say that clear blue sky, that beautiful weather, is actually your natural state. It's your natural mental wellness that everybody has.
Well, I think that's non-arguable, because if you think about it, like the sky is there all the time. It's there all the time. There's something behind your thoughts. It's something that's consistent. It's ever present. It's not changing. It's stable. It's secure. And you might feel totally disconnected and blinded from it. But just like the sky, it's impossible to have clouds without a sky through which clouds pass. It's impossible to have thought without a divine mind through which thoughts pass. So I think that, and I love the idea that really the antidote or the remedy to, cleaning up the thoughts, and the way to do it is just understanding that. It's just pointing out the obvious. And it's just remembering that time and time again, and allowing yourself to the dignity of your human experience, and allowing yourself to fully feel and be with the clouds in the sky in order to appreciate the sky that's behind the clouds.
Yeah, and the reason why understanding and awareness is all that you need really is because once you learn that this is how things work, you stop taking the thoughts or the clouds, you stop taking them so gosh darn seriously. You stop making it such an issue that you're having negative thoughts. Because you see that everything is impermanent, that even these scary thoughts that grip you are also going to pass on their own without you, processing it, without you doing whatever intervention you need to do. It's going to pass on its own because it's the nature of thought.
Right. It's, back to the idea that we're these self-cleaning organisms, self-cleaning in the body, self-cleaning in the mind. We're regulating ourselves all the time. And, we've got this consciousness, we've got this ability to override the self-regulating mechanisms. And usually that does way more harm than good. So the answer, it might sound ridiculous, but the answer is doing nothing. That's the way that you detoxify your mind, is you do nothing. And I think that's really, 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 really challenging in this world. I know I feel like it's challenging sometimes because when there's an issue, when there's stress, when there's anything that's disturbing my emotional state, I want to fix it. But the answer, the real fix is doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. But in doing nothing, we allow the self-regulating, sustainable, authentic fix to be made, and that's in moments.
Yeah. And when we mean do nothing, we don't mean like literally just sit down and complacent. Do nothing. What we mean is to just like, try not to your best ability, put more energy into trying to fix the thought that you're having, or to fix the human experience that you're having.
Well, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do, it matters how you do it. So what I think the goal to detoxify, because we're talking about cleaning up the toxic thoughts, but in the toxic relationship with thoughts, I think the goal is to be anchored and rooted in an unconditionally loving and accepting place. And then from there, you can do whatever the heck you want. You can meditate, you can go for a walk, you can do yoga, you can make a phone call to your mom, you can eat a bag of Doritos. You can do whatever you want. But chances are, when you're really authentically grounded and rooted to that unconditionally loving and accepting place, you're going to be acting out of wisdom and out of divine creativity and inspiration. And you're going to be acting in your highest good. And you're going to be acting in a way that allows for peace of mind to be maintained and experienced. And it's really, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. There's no prescriptions or necessary actions that need to be done. But in us saying this and talking about the difference between when you are caught up in this thinking world versus when you are grounded, I really want to make sure the point goes across that the goal is not to just always be in this grounded state, even though that state obviously feels the most comfortable to us, and we feel inspired and we feel so just excited to be alive, that even if you get gripped up in emotions, if you find yourself gripped in emotions throughout the day, up and down, whatever it is, that is okay too. And I think it's important that when you're gripped in emotions like this, you don't put additional blame on yourself for not being able to find how to get to that grounded state. Because when you're gripped in emotion, it may not, it may not be clear to you in the moment. And that's all okay. I mean, all of it is part of the human experience. And a big piece of what we like to talk about is, Ben is pinching me because I'm talking too long, but a big thing we like to talk about, I just want to put this out, is being more comfortable with the uncomfortable experiences and the uncomfortable thoughts. Because that's also part of, like, as a natural byproduct, when you become more comfortable with the uncomfortable thoughts, you tend to have less uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. That's really important, and that's true. And yes, I was pinching you
because I was rambling.
No, well, it wasn't ramble. It was I wanted to point out that fact that I want to keep this conversation kind of short and sweet. Okay. Our previous live episodes have gone a little bit long, and that's okay. But I think that there's something to be said about short and sweetness. But I love the note of normalizing our experience and not stigmatizing a negative thought, because all that does is just layer on the toxicity. And just recognizing and appreciating our self-balancing, self-healing tendency, both in the body and in the mind, and taking a step back and allowing it to happen, because it's amazing. I mean, it's happened for me already like 6 times today.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
But anyway, any last thoughts or words, Susanna?
Just remember that your body and your mind is always moving towards a state of health.
Yeah. And if you need or want or desire any sort of ongoing remembrance of that fact, we do remind you every week, certainly through these sort of episodes, but we have our group coaching program that's an ongoing thing where we're able to converse with you and connect with you and share this human experience, both the healing that happens in the mind, the healing that happens in the body, and optimizing the environment of the mind and the body collectively, communally, through providing education and information to live the best life that we can, right? So if you want more information on that, go to www.alter.health/weekly-group-coaching.
Or just the homepage.
Or just the homepage, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And we hope to see some of you there. I mean, it's an amazing thing that we are so passionate about. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. And a reminder for people watching the replay, you can also subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you're tuning in. And we are recording live every Thursday on Instagram and Facebook. So see you guys next week. Lots of love and peace and healing to you all.
Bye-bye.